So we're live?
Should be.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check. Good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of my podcast. I've been mentioning for the longest time that I wanted to make. It's just been taking me a little bit of time to get started up, and finding guests can always be a pain in the ass sometimes. But here it is, and what sparked me to want to make this is there's a new trend that's really starting to get on my nerves, and as the title would suggest, we're going to be talking about the ever annoying is trap a slur, and is it killing trans people? Now, I wish I could have had something more fun to talk about, but this is something I really want to talk about because though I do have plans to go after the person I believe is the original person who started all this bullshit, I'm saving that response video for another time when I'm a lot bigger and hopefully more people see it. But I thought I'd just take an opportunity for me and a lot of my other sisters that have to put up with this shit to vent with it, because not only are my fellow traps getting irritated about it, but even some of my fellow transgender friends and ex-lovers are starting to get pissed off about it. And I actually have two of them with me. I tried to get a couple more on, but these were the only ones that could be here. So I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll begin.
Hello, I'm Cypher. MTF trans.
Well, my name's Wolf.
Okay. So as some of you may know from watching some of my videos, there's this disgusting trend of idiots in the transgender community. And yes, I will refer to them as idiots because they use feelings rather than facts and evidence. And when they do try to use facts and evidence, they're extremely intellectually dishonest about it, where they go around saying that trap is actually a transgender slur with a bloody history, and it's the reason why transgenders are getting murdered. Because, you know, we can always blame very dark subject matter on just a word, right? I mean, after all, it's just like the N-word. I mean, the N-word is getting Black people killed all the time. That's why we mustn't say it. Let's ignore the fact that Black people use that word as a term of endearment all the fucking time.
It's
Yeah.
cool. Some words can cause murder.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Words can't cause murder. I mean, actions are what cause murder. Words
yeah, I really hate this idea that, oh, rhetoric is so dangerous. Words are so dangerous. Like, what's funny is nobody ever said this bull crap until this new era of identity politics nonsense, because I've been alive for over 20 years. Now, I know I may not look my age, and I've never looked my age, but trust me, I'm over 20 years old. And I remember back when I was a kid, back when people were actually discriminatory towards not only transgenders, but gays, nobody, and I repeat, nobody, ever referred to a transgender as a trap in any kind of slur way. It just didn't freaking happen. It didn't happen on TV, the internet. Now, granted, the internet was in its infancy when I was a kid, but even so, there were still websites such as what the hell was that called? That really old website that doesn't exist anymore. I don't remember its name, but fuck it. The few social media websites that were around back then, there was never people going around saying, "Oh, look at the trap. She's trying to trick me." No, that just wasn't a fucking thing.
Nope, never was. I never heard anything about it either.
Yeah. There's only
I mean,
been
it just
like
didn't
one
happen back then. Now, you know what people did call transgenders back then as an actual slur manner. They actually called them trannies. That's a real slur that people actually use against transgender. But I don't know where they're getting this so-called evidence from that it's a slur with a bloody history. Like, what really drives me nuts about these people is, keep in mind, these are the same idiots that say Karen and boomer is a slur. Basically, at this point, any word they don't like is a slur, because these people are so fucking crazy. They not only say that trap is a slur, but now femboy is a slur.
Don't forget cross-dresser as well.
Yeah. So basically, if I bet you didn't know that if you're a cross-dresser, you're a transgender. If you're a femboy, you're a transgender. If you're a trap, you're actually just a transgender. Because according to some ignorant motherfucker named Pedantic Romantic, traps don't exist. And they're actually, everyone's just transgender. You're either a cisgender white guy, or you're a transgender, according to these people.
Whatever happened to the genders of spectrum narrative?
Yeah, so it's
Whatever
funny.
happened
These
to
are the
that?
same people that believe there's over 76 genders, but they also say that anytime a boy or girl goes against the gender role in any way, they're automatically transgender.
Yeah, that's the dumb part about it. It's like, okay, I mean, if people are willing to accept, I mean, and I've talked to some people that believe that trap is a slur, and they said, like, yeah, just call them fanboys. Okay, whatever. That I can understand. I can at least say, like, okay, that's fine. At least they understand they exist.
Yeah, but apparently now you're not. Now they say that even femboys don't exist, and even femboy is a transphobic slur.
That's utterly stupid. I mean, like, the thing is that because that completely goes against the idea of there being girly men. You either need to be masculine, buff and all, like, or whatever, or you're some MTF trans. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and
No,
what
that is a
drives me,
regression in understanding, not a progression.
yeah, and what annoys me is these are the same people that also bow at the feet of drag queens, and I always tell them, okay, what about drag queens? Like, are they trans as well? Like, I feel like these people just want to be offended by something. That's what it feels like to me.
I think that a lot of it, there's two reasons why, in a way that, like, it's like, okay, the term trap I can imagine why someone who is trans could consider it a slur if it's being used in the way which is like,
Sorry,
if a person,
I don't know what happened.
because it could come off as saying, that they dress up, they're just girly guys. No, but, I mean, of course, people who are trans, there's a lot more going on. I know this from experience.
Yeah, and what I hate is traps and transgenders. I've talked about this before. Traps and transgenders have nothing in common with each other outside of the fact that they go against gender roles, I suppose. But really, they're actually antithetical to one another. I've talked about this in plenty of other videos, and yet there's still people out there that say, actually, you're just saying that they say it's all about a mentality that transgenders look and act like girls so they can trap straight men, and then when they find out about it, they kill them. Problem with that, as pointed out by a lot of memes, transgenders often get their dick removed. Traps don't. They have no desire to get their dick removed.
Not all trans people do actually go post-op, but it's pretty common. A lot of it really comes down to a mix between how severe the dysphoria is and whether the potential risks and complications are worth it in their particular case. But it's pretty common for them to go at least take HRT or go post-op. It's extremely common, at least with HRT. But
Yeah, and the reason why I brought an actual transgender on the stream is because I know these idiots would probably say that, oh, you're not transgender, so you can't speak about trans issues, because these are the same morons that think you can only speak on issues if you are a part of that group. But I'm pretty sure an actual transgender would know more about what it's like to be trans rather than all these trans trenders that these people keep getting called, because there's an absurd amount of people that they say they're trans, but they're actually not, because they just identify as something stupid like polysexual or demi-boy or something dumb like that.
like a
Fun fact, apparently I did a little bit of research, and apparently being polyamorous is a gender now. So those two stupid people that I made that response video to, that had that horrible take on polyamory. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that them being polyamorous was actually their gender. Now, did you?
What? I actually never heard this.
That's actually a real thing. They call it polysexual or something like that. That's one of the so-called 76
That's not
genders.
a fucking gender. That is a sexuality.
It's not even I don't even know if it can even be described as a sexuality. It's just basically, polyamorous is just a really fancy way of saying people who date multiple people, or just it's a sin. Or as Undoomed famously said in one of his videos about 76 genders, listen, moron, half of your genders are just synonyms for slut.
But the thing is, like, a gender is a social representation of biological sex. I mean, but the thing, like, that doesn't even fit the definition.
What's funny is, if being polyamorous or non-binary are all valid genders, then who's to say that people can't identify as traps? Well, who are you to say that that's not their gender?
We can only identify what they want us to identify as.
Yeah, basically, it's just these people just want to control everything. They find the word trap offensive for whatever stupid reason, so now they want to ban it.
Yep, it's just like the anime did.
Yeah, this anime subreddit got did they get banned, or the anime subreddit get banned?
I'll let Wolf explain, because he talked to this about me he talked about this to me last night. Apparently, the anime subreddit is further alienating people. First, they banned lollies, which lollies should be considered a human right, but then they doubled down and banned this.
Yeah, the anime subreddit, they banned the word trap. Now they're doubling down.
Actually trying to censor the word.
Now they're doubling down on it by attacking anyone who disagrees with it, calling them, the usual buzzwords, bigots, chuds, those words.
Yes, because simply calling people bigots has always worked out before. Remember when Hillary supporters kept calling Trump supporters racist and sexist? Remember how that totally got her into the White House? Oh, wait.
And now the moderators are trying to ban the word.
Huh?
Now the moderators are trying to ban the word trick, because people are trying to use that instead of trap.
This is just so stupid. Like,
Reddit's a cesspool.
Reddit is a joke. Like, I hate the anime subreddit, because even when I did go onto the anime subreddit, you can't post anything on there. Anything you post on there gets auto-deleted and labeled as quote-unquote self-promotion, and then they auto-delete it. So you can't even post anything on there anyway. But yes, First, they alienate people by banning lollies. Now they're trying to ban traps. I'm sure that's not going to cause an uproar at all.
They've already lost tens of thousands of followers, and that number is steadily increasing.
Yeah, it's almost like anime fans are not stupid, and they know the difference between a trap and a transgender. Like, I always tell people this all the freaking time. Like, okay, so these morons believe that characters like Astolfo, Felix, Hime, and all them, they're all transgender. But here's what I always ask them. Okay, then, how would you describe Hideyoshi from Bakken Test?
They would still come up with some kind of excuse to say he's trans, or they would say that their headcanon is always right.
Because here's the thing. Hideyoshi is a guy that looks like a girl, but is a guy, and and his whole thing is people keep thinking that he's a girl, but he's actually a guy, and his catchphrase is basically, you know I'm a guy, right?
Yeah. I mean,
he's a classic example. He's a perfect example of a trap.
Yeah,
that's not transgender. Because if he was transgender, wouldn't he be saying, "Oh yeah, I'm totally a girl"?
Yep. I've never actually heard any of them say that Hideyoshi is trans, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone did claim they were trans and make up some kind of BS about it. Like, oh, well, it's the dub. It's the dub. It's not like that in Japan. Some shit like that.
Yeah, even though it totally is like that in the sub. And I hate it when they do that. They always try to do that. Well, the sub says this. First off, from what I understand, in Japan, they don't even use the word transgender. In Japan, transgenders are referred to as lady boys, from what I understand. Because actually, if you look up Japanese transgender pornography, they're actually referred to as, you actually have to type lady boy to get the right results. Not even joking.
Also new half.
Yep.
New half. Yeah, I've heard the term before.
And of course, traps and femboys are called otokonoko.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they always say that headcanon. Like, I remember when I was on Twitter before it got suspended, I remember that there was this post I made that blew up. Thousands of people were getting behind me, and I think a couple of you who remember my Twitter might remember this, but some jackass put Astolfo on the transgender wiki. Now, apparently it was an April Fool's Day joke, which because apparently the actual people that made that wiki page actually came across my post and explained that it was just a joke, but there are still morons out there that take it seriously, sadly. And I said, stop calling Astolfo transgender. He's not. And thousands of people were liking me and getting behind me. Now, there were some idiots that were trying to say that actually Astolfo was transgender, and they use some of the most moronic logic I've ever heard. They say, well, it was never stated that Astolfo was transgender, so the fact that it doesn't state that he was transgender proves that he was transgender.
If he were transgender, he would have done what Da Vinci did and turned himself into a woman.
Yeah, so like I hope these morons understand that in Fate, they literally have the magic to give girls dicks. That was explained in Saber's backstory. Merlin used his magic to give Saber a dick so she can knock up the queen. Like, magic exists in this world. If a character wants to turn himself into a girl, they can do it. They have freaking magic. And Astolfo never insinuates that he is a girl at all. People just assume that he's a girl. He even laughed at Ruler when Ruler thought that Astolfo was a girl the whole time. He laughs at the idea that people think that he's a girl.
Yeah, he lives like a woman, but he doesn't identify as a woman.
Nope. And what's funny is there's an actual explanation for why Astolfo dresses like a girl. And it's actually quite simple. He likes cute things. That's it. That's the explanation. No dysphoria, no deep reason. It's just he likes cute things. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, he wants to, it's like the most you could say is that he's socially transitioned, but not because of some sort of emotional issue.
Yep. Like these people should understand, like assuming they're actual transgenders and not just people getting offended on behalf of transgenders, that transgenders, yes, I know it's bigoted or whatever, but I'm going to say it. Transgenders have a mental disorder. You can hate that all you want, but it is true. I've gone over this in videos. What makes someone transgender is gender dysphoria. That's what causes transgenderism. Most, if not all transgenders, they do not willingly choose to be transgender. It is forced upon them by an awful disorder that fucks up their life.
Yeah, it's something I wish upon no one, even in mild cases.
I've seen the effects of gender dysphoria on people. I remember one time I was once dating a very nice transgender person, and we once got into a really big fight because she thought that, sorry about that slip of the tongue, she thought that I was saying that she wasn't transgender, which I, of course, wasn't. It was a big misunderstanding in a Discord, and I indirectly triggered her gender dysphoria, and it was, of course, an accident and a huge misunderstanding, but it led to a huge fight that nearly led to not only a breakup, but a blocking. It was a very bad situation, but that's how bad gender dysphoria can fuck people up. It can genuinely take control of their emotions and make them do things they otherwise wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Yep. And I know people who are trans. I have friends who are trans, and they say that they are offended by people like pedantic because basically they're just making gender dysphoria into a joke.
Oh yeah, people like pedantic romantic are a direct threat to trans people because of the misinformation that it spreads. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, and I really don't care, but I'm not going to play the pronoun game with him, so I'm just going to call it an it.
All right, but yeah, I mean, personally, it's like, as far as whether it is, it's like I could imagine, why. I mean, it could be considered a slur. I mean, like trap is the whole trap's a slur, thing. I mean, I don't think it's really a slur. I just think that it's incorrect.
Yeah, here is basically their mentality in a nutshell. Trap is not just a slur, but also reflects a mindset that literally gets trans women killed. It's funny how they only ever point out trans women. It's funny that they never, ever go after reverse traps, only normal traps. I wonder why. Maybe it's because it involves boys dressing and acting like girls, and that's actually not socially acceptable. I made a meme about this, that when a girl dresses and acts like a boy, nobody bats an eye, even thinking that it's cute. But if a boy dresses and acts like a girl, then people lose their mind and say, lol, that's gay, or that they're killing trans people. It's funny that they'll never go after reverse traps. And that's the sad part about it, because if they went after reverse traps, I bet you they'd probably get attacked by their own people. So that just shows that there's already hypocrisy here, because by that same token, shouldn't reverse trap be a slur that's getting trans men killed?
Yeah,
And it's
theoretically, I mean,
But yeah, here's the rest of their mindset. As a reminder, trap is a word coined by a trans woman, Bailey J, aka line trap, and is used as a positive alibet, at times fetishized term by a bunch of people who genuinely weren't acceptant of trans people in the past. I've noticed the biggest push on the trap is a slur tends to be from TERFs and trans people who really don't know the word's origin and usage. Kind of feels like the queer is a slur movement. Kind of annoying that cis women and minorities can empower slurs and self-use, but heaven help traps and other queer people doing the same. Yeah, it's just that's
I actually did not.
I've always talked about is how why is it that it's okay for gay people to take the word queer, an actual queer, an actual homophobic slur? Because I can tell you from my own experiences, back in the day, queer was absolutely a homophobic slur. I got called things like queer, fruitcake, and homo growing up. Those were actual slurs that we're using against gay people. Yet now, queer is not only a socially acceptable term to use, but it's in the LGBT acronym. Like, think about it. They got an actual slur on the LGBT acronym, and they're attacking a word that has never historically been used as a slur. I can remember in Pedantic's dumb video, he actually used a guilt by association argument. He said, well, David Duke, a member, the leader of the Grand Wizard of the KKK, used trap as a slur, so therefore that makes it a slur. No joke,
just because
that actually happened.
Just because one person's an asshole does not mean that it is a slur that everyone should be offended by. That's not. Oh my god! It's just such. It's like, okay, if someone is calling a trans person a trap, then that's different. That's at best ignorant, as again, they're two entirely different groups.
I always tell people, when I hear people calling transgenders traps or traps transgenders, I debunk them all the same because they're being ignorant. However, that doesn't make it a slur because there is no known evidence of a bloody history of transgenders being killed because of the word trap. That is just so ignorant and disrespectful to trans people. Like, trans people have an extremely high death rate. That kind of goes without saying. But to blame it on a word is extremely disrespectful to the actual pain and suffering that transgenders go through on a daily basis.
It is something I wish upon no one.
Precisely. Like these idiot SJWs don't seem to understand that trans people don't willingly choose to be trans. It's like saying that I willingly choose to be depressed. No, I don't. It's forced upon me by an awful mental disorder that ruins my life.
It's like with some things in life that aren't exactly the most accepted thing. You don't choose that lifestyle. That lifestyle chooses you.
Yeah, see, that's the difference between traps. Traps choose to be traps. Traps is a lifestyle choice. Like, I have to explain that all the time. That trap, people also try to say that traps are a fetish. Okay, technically anything can be a fetish, right? There are people out there that literally get off on planes. Fucking planes. take your fetish shit and shove it deep up your ass because you're probably a huge R-tard. Because I hate hearing that, oh, traps are just a fetish. Okay, even if that was true, there are people out there that fetishize transgenders too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, seriously, go on to the hub. There are thousands upon thousands of people that get off on specifically transgenders. Like, if it's not a transgender, like if it's a cross-dresser, a femboy, or a trap, they leave. I see that all the time. So by that same logic, should we discredit transgenders by saying, oh, they're just a fetish? Like, that's supposed to invalidate them somehow?
Yeah, it's not just a fetish. Neither of them are. But the sad thing is that, I mean, in the cases where, it's like, you get the rare cases where someone is just, calling like a trans person a trap. All they would really need to do is just tell them, like, hey, I'm not a trap, like, hey, I'm trans, and walk them through the differences.
Yeah, the thing
if they did that, I feel like the community would have a lot better PR. Because as is, it's horrible PR, and it makes things quite concerning, especially being trans.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I know.
What I really hate is how they always take a horrible, tragic story of a trans person getting murdered, and then they take it out of context and blame it on the word trap. I see that happen all the fucking
It's
time.
not a
They
word
always
that
do
causes anything. It's a circumstance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the story about when a Russian trans woman, she was murdered and then she was eaten. All I heard them was bitching about the word trap, not actually showing condolences to her or her family.
Yeah,
It's
what
the
pisses me
lazy
off,
form of slacktivism.
Yeah, what pisses me off is this. Let me show you guys something. I mean, I know you guys have seen this before, but it needs to be shown. If I can find it. It's always hard to find things, and it's hard to get certain images up on frickin' yeah, just keep talking until I can find it.
All right, I'll go back to my notes. I mean, I think for people that, like, I assume Hanlon's razor when I assess how people behave. Yeah. Or I assume, like, what people are calling people. I don't assume malice straight away.
Yep, but these people, they assume the worst in people. They have no faith in their fellow man because they're obsessed with being the victim. And this is what I want to talk about. The term trap is not a slur. Stop assuming that all cross-dressers are transsexuals before you claim the term has a bloody history. Just remember that statistically speaking, the majority of LGBT violence takes place in Iraq, which doesn't even have human rights. And this is what pisses me off. Like, yeah, there's a lot of trans people that get murdered. You know why, though? It's not because of the word trap. It's because of Middle Eastern countries that discriminate against gay people and trans people and murder them because their religion tells them to.
Yeah, I've heard about the rooftop flights. It's really sad.
Yep. Like, why do you think
Really,
the
really
Middle
sad.
East is on my list of countries I'll never set foot in? Because they would kill me.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
Yeah, and it's annoying how this always gets ignored. Why? Because for some reason, people who associate on the left side of politics, for some reason, they have this cozy relationship with Middle Eastern people and Muslims. Why? I have no fucking clue.
I think there's two groups. The people who are like LGBTQ, but also try to rope the Islamic faith in. There's either two types of people like that. They do not know what the Islamic faith is about, or they're associating more with like reformists, but the reformists end up getting discriminated along with people who are, like very radical in their faith, very traditionalist types. They end up getting discriminated, and because of that, these people are, try to rope them in because what they really want is to keep reformists.
Yep, and this is the mentality these people have. And of course, got to have the annoying clapping shit. That's how you know you're dealing with an SJW. Trap is a slur. Trap is a slur that puts trans women in danger and killed because it perpetuates the idea that they're men tricking other men into having sex. Once again, why are they only focusing on men? It's an unfunny and dead meme. Let it die. My trap meme series would say otherwise, that it's quote unquote dead.
Oh,
trap memes are actually more popular than ever before.
I saw the same tweet from someone else last night. It was almost the same tweet with the clapping emojis as well.
What do you expect? These people have a fucking hive mind.
The clapping thing, it's like, it always is weirded me out. It's just filler. It does nothing.
It does
literally
makes
nothing.
You look like an annoying douche. It's like, trap is a slur. What does that do for anyone?
Nothing. It's just horrible PR. Optics, people. The optics.
Yeah, these people are ridiculous. So what's annoying is, it reminds me, because I see this tweet all the time, because these people are a hive mind. They have no individuality. They think they're a part of some kind of group. So they often just copy and paste what they say because they don't have their own opinions, because they're not capable of thinking for themselves.
It's also why we call
then it gets blamed on trans people, not the real issue, which is collectivism.
Precisely. And sadly, I'm probably gonna, even after this podcast, I'm probably gonna have to keep making videos talking about the subject, because these people will not let this go. They're genuinely trying to go out of their way to ban it. They want this word banned.
Yep. And you should also see how these people treat other trans people that aren't a part of their hive minds, like Lilith Lovin and Sophia Norwitz. Basically call them like trans traders, shit like that.
In fact, I wish I could pull it up on my Twitter, but I can't because it's been suspended. But there was a post by Lilith that was very profound that basically says that traps have indirectly helped transgenders by making the idea of a guy dressing and acting like a girl more appealing. And since traps tend to be typically a little bit more sensible, and they don't flip out about 96 genders or lose their shit over pronouns, the idea is far more appealing, and it's slowly but surely becoming more socially acceptable. So when an actual transgender is a guy dressing and acting like a girl, not as many people are weirded out by it, and they're slowly helping people become more comfortable with the idea.
I mean, hell, most people who end up realizing they're trans, that's how they figure it out.
Yeah, like think about it. Back in the day, if you watched a lot of old cartoons, it was always considered a joke if someone ever cross-dressed for any reason whatsoever. Now we live in a time where men that look and act like that are boys that look and act like girls, like Astolfo, are considered icons. Really let that sink in of how far we've come. There was once a time where if you cross-dressed, you were either considered a queer or a faggot, or you would get laughed at because it used to be viewed as a joke to even merely cross-dress for any reason. Think about how far we've come. Now characters like Astolfo, Hideyoshi, Hime, Felix, they're worshipped and loved. And the idea is now becoming mainstream of boys dressing and acting like girls or girls dressing and acting like boys. I thought that's what these morons wanted, to break down the so-called gender roles.
Yeah, I mean, and it helps them because it gets more people out of the closet.
Yep.
Which, I don't know, maybe that helps. I mean, it's like, which is a good thing because, well, for the people who sadly have very, very severe dysphoria to the point that they can't even live their lives without going post-op, basically.
Yep. And it's very sad.
It helps their prognosis. Like,
yep. I always encourage social transitioning over surgery and drugs because I think surgery and drugs is not a realistic solution. I think it often makes things worse because here's something you'll never hear these people talk about. You'll never hear them talk about detransitioners. People that transition, regret it, but can't go back and then kill themselves as a result. What about that? You'll never hear people talk about like what about surgery? Now, sure, it does work for some trans people, but for other trans people, it fucks them up because they think that surgery helps them. They realize that it didn't help them and they want to go back, but they can't because guess what? A sex change is biologically impossible. Whether you like it or not, that is true. A sex change is biologically impossible.
Yeah, I think within 20 to 30 years, we'll probably see, like, especially with the likes of Elon Musk, we'll probably see, a very real, profound development in that field. Like, but
and
really,
that'll be lovely. But until that day comes, I don't think trans people should be fucking around with things like surgery because, as Postal Cat always said, it's only skin deep at best.
I think, I've heard other people that are trans, like other people who are trans, they say something like it's 60% social, 40% hormones. There's diminishing returns. And
even then traps have proven that you can literally make people think that you are an actual girl by literally using makeup, cute outfits, and changing their voice up a little bit. Traps have proven you don't need surgery. That's the irony of it all. Traps are making things easier for trans people, but they can't accept that because these people have an us versus them mentality. They need to be victims. They need to have a bad guy to fight against because they have a childish mindset. For people like Pedantic, there needs to be some kind of big bad villain. And for them, the big bad villain is Traps because Traps have recently become mainstream and have become very popular. And also, I have a sneaking suspicion that I hate how this sounds because I really hate this argument because it makes me sound childish, but I think this might be true. I think that they're honestly jealous that a lot of Trap characters like Hideyoshi, Felix, Astolfo, they're all becoming very popular and beloved characters, and they're pissed off because I cannot think of one transgender character in anime or any other community that's genuinely as iconic and universally loved as people like Astolfo. So they get mad at that, and they want to basically say, actually, that character is trans. He belongs to us. That's genuinely what it feels like. I remember I said this on Twitter once, but every time people say that character's like Astolfo or trans, all I see is a kid that wants to take someone else's toy away. That's what I see. A kid coming up to another kid. He's pissed off that that kid has a toy that he likes, so he takes it away and says, "This toy is mine now." And then when you try to say something against them, they cry, they scream, and they make you out to be a bully when they themselves are actually the bullies.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, they like to inject their headcanons on the characters that aren't trans, yet they ignore the ones that actually are trans, like
Exactly.
Da Vinci. And there's also Tiger and Magni from My Hero Academia. They also seem to ignore an anime that stars two trans characters, Wandering Sun.
Yeah, there are actual trans characters out there. So it's not like there is no trans characters. They do exist. So go.
Yeah, they're not as insanely popular and mainstream as Astolfo, but they're not small characters either. It's like the Wandering Sun, for instance. It's literally the main character story, but I don't know why exactly it isn't something to latch onto. I assume it's because it's not really meant to be a happy story. It's
Maybe I have no clue. I've tried to get to the bottom of this, and here's one thing people don't get. Like, most people can't relate to transgender characters because most people can't relate to having a disorder that 0.3% of the population suffers from. People can't relate to that. You're asking people to relate to something that only 0.3% of the population suffers from. How can they possibly be expected to relate to that? They can often relate far more to traps because they tend to be more fun, likable characters that don't suffer from a very unpleasant disorder. Now, this isn't to say that people can't like or relate to transgender characters. They absolutely can. But the thing is, not many people do because there are people out there that can relate to characters with mental disorders. But here's the thing. It can be very unpleasant for some people, and some people don't like relating to characters that have very unpleasant disorders. While some people can, for others, it's just too uncomfortable for them to be able to relate to because they often can't relate to having such a horrible disorder.
Yep.
And that's not to say.
I actually think I might know why. I've never watched Wandering Sun. But I think there could be the reason that, given that this takes place with like a middle school or something, that it relates in a way that is highly uncomfortable. Like, It's something that hits too close to home for a lot of people.
I mean, for a lot of people, it can sometimes be difficult to relate to characters that suffer from depression, not because they hate depressed people, but because depression is a horrible disorder. And I can tell you from experience, I've made videos about this in the past, that depression, like gender dysphoria, is a horrible disorder. I wouldn't wish depression on anyone. And I have the worst type of depression. I have the same depression that completely fucked up the king himself, Dishonored Wolf. Some of you might know who I'm talking about. Dishonored Wolf was a super awesome YouTuber that helped start the EFAT podcast with the YouTubers Mahler and Rags. And sadly, he suffered from clinical depression like I did, and it fucked him up so badly, he nuked his own YouTube channel and says he wants to go back to being a nobody because his depression makes him feel so miserable. Like that, like it is really, and I suffer from that same depression. Now, I hope I don't suffer from the same fate as Wolf, but it's a very sad thing. Clinical depression, imagine every day of your life not having any drive or motivation, not wanting to do anything, having another force in your head that works against you. You could be having the best day of your life, and then another force starts trying to tear you down and telling you all sorts of ways in which, oh, you're not actually happy. Like, imagine that. Imagine having someone whisper to you every single day that you can't be happy. You never will be happy. Your life sucks. You're a failure. Constantly working against you and making you feel miserable, taking away your drive to do anything. Imagine suffering from that 24/7. That's what it's like to suffer from depression. For some people, they can't relate to that because it's very horrible.
I have PTSD, which does roughly the same thing, just in a different way. I have issues where, like, I could be having the best day of my life, and then I have some flashback of something that happened to me, even years ago, and in such graphic detail that it feels like I am living that moment again.
Yep, and I can sadly relate to that because I also suffer from PTSD because of my abusive ex that nearly drove me to suicide. The same thing happens to me. I remember the other day I was at work. I'm over here working the drive-through. I'm kind of just spacing out because there was no more customers. So I'm just kind of sitting at the window, kind of spacing out a bit. And then I find out, and then I start having flashes and daydreams of my abusive ex that had me breaking out into nervous laughter, similar to the condition that Arthur Fleck had in the Joker movie.
Yeah,
Thankfully, it wasn't really bad, but that's the kind of thing. That's what mental disorders do to you. They are forced on you. You don't choose to have gender dysphoria. You don't choose to have depression. You don't choose to have PTSD. It's something you simply live with.
Yeah,
and those who can't live with it sadly end up killing themselves, and it's a very tragic thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mental disorders are something where it's so deeply ingrained that it often is you.
Yep, and this is why it makes me sick that people out there praise people for being transgender, encourage them, say things like gender dysphoria is not a mental disorder, and try to push it on kids like some kind of fad. It's disgusting. You wouldn't give someone a medal for having Down syndrome. So why would you do the same thing for someone who has gender dysphoria?
Yep.
I can understand. Like, the thing is, I can understand. Like, if it was something like, you're able to cope with this. You're making decisions that are improving your life. Congratulations for that. But to simply have dysphoria, no. I cannot understand that.
Yeah, and what drives me nuts is there are YouTubers out there, and I plan on talking about this YouTuber someday because every single time I check up on her, she's always doing something crazy, and I know you two know who I'm talking about. There's this YouTuber out there named Eris. I think that's the name it uses. It's non-binary, so yeah, that's annoying. But it's a crazy non-binary YouTuber that actually censors the word trap. It thinks that it's a slur so much that it censors itself when it uses the word trap, and actually says that people should be afraid of her. And if you disagree with her about anything transgender related, she once told me, and Wolf over here is a witness to it, she told me to go choke to death because I merely disagreed with her.
I think I might have seen this. It's yikes.
Yeah, these people are the actual bullies. They claim that we're the evil transphobes, but they're going around making transgender people look like mentally unhinged lunatics. And yes, this heiress person actually said in a video that she suffers from all kinds of mental disorders. Oh, gee, imagine my shock. And then and sits there and says, I'm always worried that I'm going to say the wrong thing to my lover and then she's never going to want to be with me again. Oh, gee, I wonder why. Maybe it's because you tell people to choke to death when they disagree with you. You don't think that's a little bit unreasonable?
Yeah, when I confronted them on that, they said it's because you told them that they don't deserve to live because they're non-binary. And you never said that.
Yeah, of course not. Like, now, it's true that I've gone on record saying I don't take non-binary seriously. I don't think it's an actual thing. I think it's just another made-up gender that young people use because they lack character or personality, and they think that gender identity is having a personality. But here's the thing. If you want to identify as non-binary, I really don't give a fuck. Yeah, I think it's stupid, but here's the thing. I'm a libertarian. I'm an ANCAP. I believe that if you're not hurting anyone, do whatever the fuck you want. If you want to go outside in the hot sun butt naked, I don't care. As if you want to snort half a pound of cocaine and walk around with a machine gun strapped to your back for 11 hours, I don't fucking care. As long as you don't hurt anyone, I don't give a damn. But when you go around trying to force your beliefs down my throat, tell people to go choke to death, attack freedom of speech, and try to force your will on people like that crazy bitch did, then I have a problem with it.
I see her to whoop her ass. He said, I don't have to let her hit me first. He said, just make sure to make nobody looking. You hear me? Jason, huh?
Okay, that was okay.
Yep.
Anyway, this I think the problem is that there's a lot of different. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry. What was I gonna say?
Another thing that
What were you saying?
Yeah, another thing that annoys me is these people that go around saying that trap is a slur. They are actual bullies. Now, I plan on making a video about this, and I probably might do it sooner rather than later. I know a lot of my fans really want me to talk about death race. I understand what they want, but I might make this video next because I actually see this as very important. But the concept known as pink pilling, where transgender people go around finding feminine boys, traps, or cross-dressers and bully and coerce them into thinking they're transgender. And the most disgusting part about it, one of their most common victims are people who are autistic. They are known for targeting autistic people and trying to manipulate them into thinking they're transgender. It is so fucked up. And these morons try to pretend that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, when they're the very ones who participate in it. And unfortunately, yep. I do know a few victims that identify as femboys, and now they go around saying that they're trans. I think it was because they were a victim of pink pilling.
Yep, and it's an awful thing. And honestly, if you can still get in contact with them, if you could send them my way, I would love to help them out, because it is fucked up that to think that there are some people out there that are being manipulated, coerced, and bullied into thinking that they are transgender by so-called allies.
I would, but they don't want to have nothing to do with me anymore.
Like, it's a really fucked up thing. And they always try to, and because the concept of pink pilling is relatively brand new, these morons try to pretend that, what are you talking about? Pink pilling's not a real thing. Show me a definition. I'm like, it's a relatively new concept. Sadly.
Oh, at least it hasn't been going on for a long time. But sad thing is that a lot of times people who do it, they think they're helping. They think that, like people who do it intentionally as a means of, quote unquote, trying to, like, it's really difficult to explain, but
And
I
they're
think
doing,
that generally, if someone legitimately suspects that someone has gender dysphoria, but is closeted.
Yeah, but here's
Then
the thing.
okay,
It's very hard to know because you typically have to go to a professional to even get diagnosed with it. You can't just diagnose yourself with gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
And fun fact, if gender dysphoria doesn't cause transgenderism like some people try to claim, why do you need to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria to undergo surgery?
I don't know.
It really eludes me as to why that is the key, like when people say that, because it's unscientific at best. Because
remember, these people hate science because science hurts their feels.
Even idiots saying that you don't need to have the gender dysphoria to be trans.
Yep, and Blair White deals with those morons all the time, and it disgusts me that these so-called trans people will attack, bully, and threaten actual transgender people because they dare disagree with their rhetoric. Like, Blair White is out there trying to actually help trans people, and there's so many people in the trans community that just shit on her. Some of them genuinely want to murder her.
I have not followed Blair White that much, and I mean, I don't agree with her politics, but
her
not
politics
right
are
to shit on
irrelevant.
someone.
What matters is she's an actual transgender person that isn't insane and actually speaks truth when she's talking about transgender issues.
Yeah.
Well, those toxic trans person they call her people like her trust scum.
They call her all kinds of stupid shit. Hell, these are the same. She says that she once went to Stonewall or whatever it's called, some kind of transgender event, and she said it was just a get together where LGBT people and trans people would just get together and talk about how much they hate straight people, and they even apparently call straight people breeders.
What?
Yep, that's an actual thing they do.
Breeders.
Yep. And it's funny. Blair White's reaction is priceless. She's like, you're welcome. Because if it wasn't for so-called breeders, none of you little fuckers would even exist. You wouldn't have been born. Actually, come to think about it, maybe it would have been a good thing if you weren't born. The world would be a better place without your bullshit.
Yeah, the mother should have swallowed them.
I mean, I don't agree that it shouldn't be born, because in the end, the worst that comes is that people can get a laugh out of it, I guess. But it's still really sad to see that people like this,
Yeah, these painkillers are just horrible people.
Like, I can imagine if someone thinks they're legitimately helping people, because at that point, they think, okay, like, it's like, I can say, okay, you actually, you understand, like, it's understandable if you thought that was going to help. It's just, if you thought that was going to help, that's something I can at least, like, say, okay, you thought it was going to help, but it didn't. But for anyone who does it purely out of malice, I can't help them.
I mean, there are people who probably think that they're helping, but I've seen more people who've done it out of malice.
Yeah, and that's what it. And sadly, these people are doing more harm than good. Like trans people, damn it! Like these trans people are causing a lot of harm. They don't seem to understand that traps are doing genuine good for not only helping to make the idea of guys dressing and acting like girls socially acceptable, not only breaking down the so-called gender roles they hate so much, but they're also even indirectly helping trans people. Traps have had such a positive impact, and they want to tear us down for. I always like, and this is a thing. I wish people like Pedantic and Eris that believe this shit had the balls. Well, they probably don't have any, lol. But jokes aside, I wish they actually had the guts to stand up for what they believe in and debate me. Like, if you think that trap is a slur, okay, how about you go to an actual trap and debate them? Because Pedantic said in a tweet that it's an objective fact that trap is a slur. I'm like, okay, if it's an objective fact, then come debate me. If the facts are on your side, you should have nothing to worry about, right?
And I told him if he wants to debate you, just go ask. I never heard anything back because he's a coward. But I wouldn't be surprised because he blocks people who disagree with him on YouTube. I'm definitely blocked by him.
Yep, and what's funny is other trans people disagree with people like Pedantic Romantic. I remember one of the responses to Pedantic Romantic's shitty ass video was a trans person. That's one of the funny things about it. The first person to debunk his video is an actual transgender. I think it's safe to assume your arguments are fucking shit when even other trans people are saying, you're wrong. The YouTuber, if you're curious, the YouTuber Unknown Otaku, who's actually one of the few transgender YouTubers that's actually pretty cool, similar to Blair White. But what I respect about Unknown is he doesn't even mention that he's trans, because from his perspective, it's nobody's business if he's trans because it's not a part of who he is, really. So he just kind of, that's how I wish more trans people were. Just if you're going to be transgender, then just be trans. Just own the fact that you're a woman or a man. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to play the fucking pronoun game. If you think you're a woman, just be a woman. If you think you're a man, just be a man. Like Blair White said when she debated Jessica Yaniv, possibly the most toxic transgender of all time. If you're a woman, then just be a fucking woman. Walk in to a salon and just say, I'm a woman. Don't go around announcing that you're transgender. It does nothing for anyone.
Now, to be fair, Unknown Otaku does have those things in her bio, but I think it's more of that she's making fun of those people that do that.
Yeah. Unknown Otaku once cameoed in a video by Easy Peasy, who is basically a ER ripoff. So he's actually one of them edgy transgenders.
Mm.
I mean, Easy Peasy isn't as edgy and cool as ER, but he's all right, I guess. As like an ER ripoff goes, he does a decent job, I suppose. But yeah, Unknown Otaku once cameoed in his Steven Universe video where he responds to the comment section by crazy Steven Universe fans. Yeah, so I'm fine with Unknown Otaku. In fact, if I could ever have Unknown Otaku as a guest on my podcast, I'd love that. I think he'd fit right in. Yeah, so I definitely recommend checking Unknown Otaku out because he actually knows what he's talking about, and he's a badass edgelord like moi. We badass edgelords got to stick together.
Yep. And I definitely do have a lot of respect for her because she's also one of the very first trans people that actually stood up for me.
Erica?
No.
No.
Unknown Otaku.
Oh, Unknown Otaku. I thought you were talking about someone else.
No, I don't think Wolf knows who Erica is. But another YouTuber that debunked the whole trap as a slur nonsense was the YouTuber Dimitri. Now, I don't know if Dimitri is a trap or just a femboy, even though I personally think that traps and femboys are the same thing. But not only did he debunk that, but somehow him and Unknown Otaku somehow got Pedantic Romantic to agree to do a debate. But this moron still believes in this nonsense, even though he pretty much got destroyed by those two. And people wonder why people consider being an SJW a cult. Because it basically is at this point.
Yeah.
And they all say the same shit, and that's why we call them NPCs.
Yep. That's exactly what they are. Like, I guarantee you, like, if Pedantic had the guts to come debate me, because I'm actually interested in doing live debates, but most people don't ever debate me because they either are a coward and don't know how to debate, or they're a coward and afraid of me because I actually know how to debate. I've had people genuinely tell me they're afraid to debate me. Not because like I'm super scary or I get mad or anything, but because I'm so good at debating, most people run away when I offer a debate to them. And I guarantee you, if Pedantic was on here with us, he would be getting absolutely fucking annihilated. I would either have him in silence or in tears. Because I'm just so sick of this nonsense. This whole, traps is a slur nonsense. Like, just leave traps alone. And what really gets me mad is they always target the things that we love most. Now, you may see this as stupid, but Astolfo means a lot to the trap community. There's a reason why we consider him our queen. And whenever they try, and they want so badly to take that away from us, because they know what he means to us.
Yep, it was actually Astolfo who helped me realize I was a femboy, because before I discovered Astolfo, I actually was confused about my identity.
Yep. Astolfo was one of the things that pushed me into becoming a trap. Shortly after my ex broke up with me and nearly ruined my life, I ended up going through a crisis because I didn't know who I was anymore. She basically broke me into a million pieces and I had to be put back together. And one of the things that pushed me into becoming a trap was Astolfo, along with my crazy ex, who basically made me think, you know what? I am going to become the best woman possible to spite horrible women like her. So men don't have to suffer at the hands of crazy, unhinged women like her.
Yep, become the girlfriend.
Yep, we traps have this saying, if you can't get a waifu, just become the waifu. And that's true. That's basically what I did. I decided, you know what? I can't have a waifu, so fuck it. I'll just become one. And it worked out quite well. Not only that, but I fully admit that I actually always wanted to be a girl. Not because I have gender dysphoria, but because I had always theorized that had I been born a girl, my life probably would have been better than it turned out to be. And it's interesting that every time people think that I'm a girl, I get treated with a lot more love, affection, and respect than I ever did than when they see me as a boy, because I never got the love and affection I wanted growing up. But now whenever people see me as a girl, I actually get it, which leads to my theory possibly being true that had I been born a girl, my life probably would have been better than it turned out to be. But sadly, here's the difference between me and transgenders, because whenever I tell people this, they always say, well, then you're just trans. I'm like, no, because I don't have gender dysphoria. I'm not uncomfortable with the fact that I was born a boy. I can look at my dick and not have a panic attack. Like, actual transgender people can't look at themselves. When they see a male face, a flat chest, or a dick, they often will go into a panic attack. I can do that without freaking out. But what I do is I just use my trap persona as a way to basically be able to cope with it, because I know that I'll never be able to be a girl. Unless someday technology ever makes a machine where you can just literally be turned into a girl, I've acknowledged the reality that I can't be a girl and I never will be a girl. So the best I can do is just be a trap. It's the best I can hope for. I have no desire to transition. And that's the difference between traps and transgenders. Transgenders actually believe that they are a boy or a girl trapped in the wrong body and they must transition. However, traps accept the fact that they are boys. They're fully aware of the fact that they are boys and they identify as such. That's the difference. Traps are just boys that look and act so much like girls that the people around them view them as such. However, they still identify as a boy and they're comfortable with that. Basically, they're cisgender still. And we all know how much trans people hate cisgender people.
Yeah, I always hear them say that. I always hear them say things like, "Well, shut up, you're cis."
Yep, pretty much. This can be a topic for another day, or maybe if we have time at the end. And yes, biology dictates such things. Like, here's the thing. Science and biology proves the existence of transgender people. So there's an actual biological scientific explanation for trans people. Blair White has gone over this numerous times, that they've done research and found that transgender brains often align with the brains of women or men, but they are merely in the wrong biological body.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, who knows? Maybe someday the answer to transitioning might be is maybe in the future we'll see people making artificial bodies and using brain transplants to help trans people transition into the right body without even having to cut up their body, just get their brain transferred into the right body. Maybe someday that'll
Or just
happen.
read-write access. Even just straight up just read-write access to people's brains.
Yep, but until that happens, trans people need to accept that a sex change is biologically impossible. The best they can hope for is social transitioning, because transitioning has a lot of risks. Like, a lot of people don't talk about this, but those hormones that you're put on actually fucks you up emotionally. And that's what often leads to transgender people committing suicide. The hormones will fuck them up emotionally, and they already have gender dysphoria, so it leads to them taking their own life because it can often be too much for them. I always tell people drugs are never the answer. Do you know how many people who suffer from depression have their lives ruined by so-called antidepressants that only make the problem worse? Whenever I meet a transgender person, I always encourage them, don't transition. If you need to transition, just socially transition, but don't go on hormones, don't do surgery. It's way too risky. Especially if you end up being a detransitioner, then you're fucked. It's just not worth the risk. It's not because I'm transphobic. It's because I'm genuinely concerned for their well-being, and I don't want them to become another statistic.
Yep. I also know some trans people I've talked to. They've stopped taking hearts because they said it makes them physically ill, like they throw up a lot, and they say that it can weaken your immune system.
Oh, yeah. I remember one time, apparently I found out that the YouTuber Doodle Tones is, I guess, apparently transgender. And Doodle Tones mentioned that they bought hormones online and are receiving no results. And I remember putting in the comment section, first off, why would you take hormones? Second off, why would you buy hormones on the fucking internet?
Sometimes
For all you know,
people,
someone just filled the bottle with aspirin and sent it to you.
some people do it because of money issues. Some people do it because age. It could be a lot of different things, but it's either usually it's hard for them to get the hormones in some other way, which is more, I guess you could say, proper. But it's,
I mean, correct me if I'm
wildly
wrong,
risky.
but doesn't health insurance typically cover that kind of stuff?
Depends on the country.
Yeah, that's another good point. Oftentimes, your body can reject the drugs because here's the thing. Just because your brain might be in the wrong body doesn't mean your body still won't naturally reject that. If you still have the body of a male and you're trying to put estrogen and hormones in it, your body's going to naturally reject that because you still have the body of a man.
That's exactly what happened with my friend. They took it, and the drugs, their bodies rejected it, and that's why they got sick.
This is why you cannot say that transgenderism is a social construct. It's not. It is an absolute biological reality. This is why people need to stop with this social construct shit.
Yeah, it's not a social construct, and sadly, a lot of people who say that it is do vastly more harm than good for the community.
Yep, people like Blair White are actually trying to help the transgender community, and morons like Pedantic Romantic want to make it worse. And don't get me fucking started on ContraPoints. I'll deal with that idiot someday too, because even ContraPoints had to get in on the whole trap nonsense, on the whole trap thing. ContraPoints made like a 50-minute long video talking about traps. In fact, I might save that for another episode of the podcast where I'll get a bunch of my trap and transgender buddies together, or I'll possibly get some very big trap and transgender YouTubers together, like maybe Unknown, Dimitri, Blair White, who knows, maybe if I could ever get in contact with them, and we'll sit down and take a look at ContraPoint's video. We'll go full EFAP on that shit. And I'll even send it to Rags and Mueller. Here's my audition to be able to be on EFAP. Because I've actually been trying to get on the EFAP podcast for the longest time, but I have to wait my turn because they have a long list of guests. But that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I might do that because holy shit, I haven't seen ContraPoint's video yet because it's very long, but I can only imagine how fucking bad it is. Considering the type of videos I have seen from ContraPoints, like the time that Filthy Heretic and Postal Cat made video upon video upon video debunking ContraPoints. Needless to say, it isn't very smart.
I've heard about ContraPoints, and a lot of the videos are, you could say, incorrect.
Yeah, ContraPoints doesn't understand anything. ContraPoints thinks that wanting to have expensive things is a bad thing. And we shouldn't want to have expensive things. And it's a social construct by capitalism that makes us want to have expensive things. No, that's not true at all. Some people just like to have nice things.
Yeah, some people just like to have nice things.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong. Like Mr. Dapperton once said, there's nothing wrong with wanting stuff. People like stuff. That's a universal fact about all people on planet Earth. Even Kim Jong-un, he really loves stuff. Ask Kim Jong-un about how much stuff he has and how much stuff he loves. He loves stuff so much, he owns basically all the stuff in his country.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how they will excuse that, since he's a communist.
Yeah, I mean that'll be a conversation for another day. Definitely gotta stay on topic, but we could definitely talk about that someday. But yeah, I'm trying to remember though. I think there was a couple other things I was wanting to mention about this whole trap is a slur thing. I don't know if I can think of it right now, but if you two have something you want to say about this, absolutely take the opportunity, because I know you both have been getting annoyed by this nonsense too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I think there's just two major flaws in the so-called trap as a slur thing. Is that, it's not, they're two different groups.
Precisely.
I've seen people call trans people traps. And when it is used that way, it's fucking awful, because it's basically like saying that they're just pretend that they're faking their dysphoria, and that's utterly sickening. I'm not going to defend that at all.
That's what happens when you believe transgenderism is a social construct. You say stupid shit like that, because if transgenderism is a social construct, then there would be no need for trans people to transition. They would just simply identify as a woman.
No,
the reality is it's not a social construct. First off, the concept of gender, I've mentioned this numerous times before. The word gender is a made-up term coined by a social scientist who performed human experiments on a pair of twin boys, drove them both to suicide, and his own fucking experiments debunked him. This always drives me nuts. Stop using the word gender. It is a bullshit social scientist term with no objective backing behind it. The actual man who coined the term got debunked by his own experiments and ruined a pair of twin boys' lives.
Mm-hmm.
Enough is enough with this. It's a social construct shit. It's not gender, it's sex. Now, I know you feminists hate that word, but sex is the proper terminology that you use.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I hear people use the word gender, all I think is, well, that person's ignorant.
Yeah, I can understand why if people use the terms gender and sex interchangeably, okay, that's fine. But to say that, but if they do that, then say gender is a social construct, then no, because at that point you're talking about biological sex. This is the most annoying thing about social scientists and how they frame things. They frame things as if they're reality, even though when it comes to it's a social reality. Yeah, it's a social reality. It's not a reality as far as, in the same way that it's a reality biologically. Is to reflect how people are seen in referring to each other.
Everything's a social construct to them.
Yeah, because they're not scientists. They're social scientists at best. But this is the problem with having a world with gender studies degrees and stuff. The people who would otherwise be taking a trade going to these ridiculous courses because,
Okay.
well, it's like, that I think honestly I would go so far as to say that like gender studies
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gender
is
studies
literally
is the
just
most
the new trade.
useless class
Someone
in the world.
Mhm.
I honestly think gender studies should be banned because it's absolutely worthless.
shouldn't be banned. It should be laughed out of the college campuses, but it isn't because, well, it makes the money off the people who would otherwise be going to a trade school because, well, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed necessarily. I'm not saying all of them aren't. No, I'm not gonna paint that brush. But some of the people who go to those courses, they're either trying to go for some, like, either it's part of Common Core, which in that case that's utterly bullshit. But if people are actually majoring in it, they're either going into social scientists, which is legitimate. I mean, that's something I can understand. Or they're people who would otherwise be taking a trade. But because college is kind of more or less required nowadays to even have a decent job because of government regulations, people end up in those kinds of courses when they really don't have a reason to be in college.
And I also find it funny when these people get their gender studies degrees and they try to get another job, they complain because they're not qualified. But geez,
They're not qualified. They're not qualified because they went to a gender studies course. They didn't go into, like a STEM course, which really, in my opinion, college is meant for STEM.
Mm-hmm.
That is the field you get into if you're getting into college.
I mean, I'm more qualified than any of these gender studies losers. I bet you they can't even get a job.
In
Oh,
my
they're probably
case,
threatening
I went to college for some field of science. I'm not going to specify, but I went to college as a scientist. Didn't finish the degree, but yeah, I mean, I'd be more qualified than someone that finished a gender studies degree.
Yep. And I don't get why these people just hate trap so much. And I don't get, like, why is this treated with legitimacy by people? Like, how are there people out there that manage to fall for this shit?
The world may never know. The world may never know, and I'm not even gonna try to figure out how people act. As some things, I guess, are best left to be a mystery.
Yeah. Now, I can't say for certain, but I'm almost certain this can all be linked back to pedantic romantic. Nobody believed this shit until that moron made his video.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe this was a belief well beforehand. But
I don't know the origin enough to really how to explain this. It's not to the level of I don't know if there was anything before pedantic romantic.
it's hard to know for certain.
It would be if someone said like, hey, there's this thing before in this article or whatever, then yeah, fine. I mean,
I'm pretty sure if trap was an epidemic, we would be hearing news stories about transgender dying because the word trap. Like, nobody says that because it's ludicrous. It's like saying that black people are being killed because of the N-word.
No, blacks, like, when they're killed over racism, it's because people hate them, not over a word. It's because of other people's hate turning into action. No word is fatal.
And
no word is.
Yep, and here's something I always tell people, and this is a truth, words only have as much power as we prescribe to them. One thing I remember I always admired about Blair White is how she takes the word tranny and makes it into a cute joke because she doesn't see it as a slur. She actually thinks it's kind of cute. And I know people try to use that as evidence of why she's teaching transphobia to her audience. But no, she's taking a word that was once used to discriminate against traps and making it into a joke. Isn't that a good thing? Like, it's kind of similar to how black people take the N-word and they turned it into a term of endearment, so much so that black people basically use the N-word when referring to their best friends.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that the best way to deal with someone using slurs to be mean is to throw it right back in their face. In the sense
it's not even just to do that. You make the slur into a joke.
Good. Yeah, exactly. You mock it. Or
That's what I
use
do.
it and you impart it into your culture as a good thing. That's the way you deal with this sort of stuff.
Because why is it that?
why-
Why someone in the chat point out?
Why give the oppressor that power if you feel like you're being oppressed by someone? Don't give them your power. Don't give them the
and
power.
banning the word isn't going to do anything either.
It's dumb. Like the idea of like the word, like just putting that much power to a word. No.
No, I mean it's so freaking stupid that how these people operate. Like, okay, so black people use the N-word, no one bats an eye. But if a white person says it, then they're racist and we need to beat the shit out of them.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm
So-
probably gonna have to go in like 5-10 minutes. Could lose our power.
All right. I mean,
But-
I'll probably only be able to keep the stream going for at least another 20 minutes because I will have to head off to work soon. I wanted to be able to stream this for much longer because it's something I'm very passionate about, but sadly, I do have to head to work and I won't be back till 10. Even if I left the stream going, like you guys would be without me for the next 5 hours, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in case I have to go off any earlier, glad I could be on, and it was a good stream.
Yep.
So far.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here, sis.
Yep. And I'm going to continue to fight back against this nonsense because I am so sick and tired of this bullshit. Hearing about how traps are a slur and hearing about my sisters being pink-pilled by ignorant trans.
The sad thing is, like, the optics it has in the community is utterly horrible. Like, it turns trans people into some sort of villain that they're not.
Yeah, but
Because
that's
of
the thing. These people understand. Like, they think they're helping trans people by making them look like fucking assholes. Like they're like all their pronoun nonsense. Like, going back to that Eris YouTuber, she throws a shit fit anytime someone doesn't use her pronouns. She's so cringy. She puts her pronouns in her dumb little OC character. She says, "Why can't people refer to me by my pronouns, OG?" Maybe it's because it's not normal to go up to someone and call them they or them. Most people don't do that because that's not a thing people do.
It's like, for me, I mean, if someone asked me genuinely, like, hey, can you call me a certain pronoun? I prefer this. If someone asked me genuinely, I'd be willing to give it my best efforts. I might slip up once in a while, but just, the whole "please be patient" applies here.
Yeah, but these people have no patience. They just expect you. I honestly think that for a lot of these people, it's just a way for them to have power over people.
Like,
They just want to
I
be
mean,
able to
I
bully
don't
them
mind
into
if people
submission.
call each other like by neopronouns or any of that other stuff. I don't mind, but to demand it, that's different because it's not something people default to.
Yep. Here's what I always tell people. I always tell people this. I don't give a damn if you call me by my preferred pronouns or not. Just because I want to be called a girl doesn't mean I'm going to get mad at you if you don't call me a girl. Because it really doesn't matter to me. I always tell people, if I pass as a girl to you, call me a girl. If I pass as a boy to you, call me a boy. I don't care. I remember one time at this convention when I was in full trap mode cosplaying as Main Misaki when I went to that Gaemon Expo I mentioned a long time ago. And I remember I had a bunch of people telling me, like, hey, what are your preferred pronouns? And I kind of told them I don't have any. I don't really care. Call me by whatever pronoun you want.
I'm
And
the same way.
it's so annoying because it's like I even had one woman's like, "Oh shoot, I'm sorry. Did I call you by the wrong pronoun?" I'm like, no, call me whatever you want. I hate that crap. Like people genuinely feel they have to walk on eggshells around.
Yeah, the sad thing is like, and it doesn't do them much good to constantly demand external validation.
Yeah, like why is it
If you
my
have-
job to validate your existence? Validate your own existence. I remember I got into a debate with this one idiot where she said it's important for media to validate the existence of LGBT people. Why do you need media to validate your existence? Validate your own existence.
Yeah, like don't.
You're not
This is
entitled
like
to media representation.
This is the worst trap people fall into. It's so bad. Like this idea that people need to validate your own existence. It's so dangerous.
Yep, that's
Because
basically what that Eric's girl does. She expects her audience to validate her existence at all times.
The second that string's cut, what are you gonna do?
Yep.
You're
Also,
left with nothing.
if pronouns make you feel that sensitive, then chances are you're probably a weak person with a pretty privileged life. If pronouns are your oppression. Oh no, people call me by the wrong word. Oh, whoop-de fuckity do. How about you take your ass down to the Middle East where women are being fucking herded around like sheep and gay men are being murdered, and then talk to me about oppression. Take your ass down to a third world country where people are experiencing famines.
I mean, I can understand. It's like, again, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, whether they're weak, whether they're just dangerously needy of external validation, the point still stands. I think that the best thing they could do for themselves, and this goes for anyone in a position like that, what people need is to feel good about themselves. Those are the people who are successful in life, not the people who rely on others to even keep their own stability in check. Like it's ridiculous.
Yep, absolutely.
Because I mean, I can understand. Like look, I mean, you want to be called a she, or they, or whatever. That's fine. That's perfectly reasonable. But you can't have that be your only lifeline.
Yep, and for these people, being trans or non-binary is the only thing they have going for them because they don't have a character or a personality.
Yeah, that's the saddest part about it.
That's what they seem to want in fictional media. Like you remember Mass Effect Andromeda, where one character was just trans and that was it.
Yep, what they don't understand is they're basically making trans people into caricatures and tokens.
Yeah, that's really sad, actually, that they do that, because they deal with enough.
And it's funny,
shit
like I
as
thought tokens were a bad thing. Like what happened to all the people that were complaining about black people being the token black person in horror movies and then they get killed off? Well, that's what they want. They just want tokens. They just want women to be in there just to be in there. Black people to be in there just to be in there. Do they have any character or purpose? No, they're just there. Like, that's what I hate about identity politics. Identity politics just basically breaks you down into a caricature. And these SJWs wonder why they're caricatures of themselves, because that's what identity politics is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, when I write trap characters or LGBT characters, they are not caricatures. I actually give them personality and character. Like, it's not just, oh, here's a trap and that's their entire character. Here's a lesbian, that's their entire character. Like, I mentioned that I might possibly get serious about putting an anime script of mine into production, and there are 2 lesbian characters in there, and their whole entire character isn't that, oh, I'm a lesbian. I actually give them character because I don't believe in writing caricatures. I think it's disrespectful to the audience because the audience comes for characters and story. If you're a caricature, nobody's going to give a shit about you. And that's what people like Eris and Pedantic Romantic are. They're caricatures. When people think of non-binary people, they think of people like Eris, and then they wonder why non-binary people don't have a good representation. Because you have people like Eris saying, call me by the right pronouns. Everything is transphobic. Go choke to death.
Hey, listen, this is fun, but I gotta get going. See you later.
All right.
I gotta go too. It was good to be on. Thank you for letting me be on.
First episode wasn't the longest. Next time I'll try to see if I can do this on like a day off or something.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm willing to be on again. This was really nice.
Yep, it was. So yeah, sorry about the short episode, guys. I promise these will probably be much longer in the future. I don't know if they'll be as long as the EFAP podcast, but we'll see. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you ever see one of those people that say that trap is a slur, either send them this podcast or any of my videos, or tell them, okay, go debate me. I'll debate them any freaking time. And Pedantic, if you're listening, if you truly believe in your bullshit, then back your shit up. I'm waiting right here. Here's a trap right here for you. You have the perfect opportunity to humiliate me. So come do it. I shall await your response. But we'll see, because I don't think you're going to do it because I believe you're a coward. But please feel free to prove me wrong. But I hope you enjoyed this first episode. Let me know what you think of the name of the podcast. If you guys want, I might set up a poll of different names, and you guys can let me know which one you like the best. I'll see. I'll think about it while at work today, and I'll see you guys real soon. I'll try to have a new video uploaded by tonight, hopefully. But have a good day, and I'll see you guys around next time.